Hi there, I'm Father Edward Hauschild and this is Ask a Priest, where I try and answer some of the questions from the AskAPriest subreddit. Today's question is from TheCogamer103 and he asks about eating meat on Fridays. He says, I was wondering if I could eat meat on Fridays during Lent under extraneous conditions if I purposefully abstain from it on another day of the week. So this is a question about eating meat on Fridays. So for anyone who doesn't know, Catholics don't eat meat on Fridays. This isn't a divine law, you're not going to find it anywhere in the Bible, but it's a precept of the Church that we have to keep certain days for fasting and for abstinence, because fasting and abstinence is good for the soul. The Church has, for centuries, named Friday as a day of abstinence from meat. Why meat and why Fridays? Well, meat because meat is a luxury of sorts, but it's a luxury that we would, if we were able, have more or less every day. And Fridays because that's the day that Jesus was crucified, so it's a fitting day to offer our own little sacrifice in union with the cross. Now, because it's a mortal sin to fail to keep the precepts of the Church, it is a mortal sin to eat meat on Fridays. There is one general exception, that's when a special feast called a solemnity, like the Solemnity of the Assumption or the Solemnity of the Annunciation, happens to fall on a Friday. On those days, the feast day trumps the fast day. So what have we learnt so far? Catholics don't eat meat on Fridays unless that Friday happens to be a special kind of feast day. There is, however, an exception to that general rule. Because Friday fasting is a precept or a rule of the Church can dispense you from it. The bishops have the power to set rules in their own country. So for a long time, the bishops of England and Wales required you to do some penance on Friday, but didn't specify that it had to be fasting from meat. However, in 2011, they reintroduced the rule. So this is what they say. The obligation to do penance on Friday is satisfied by not eating meat, but that those who cannot or choose not to eat meat as part of their normal diet should abstain from some other food of which they regularly partake. So, abstain from meat, but if you're a vegetarian already, you could, for instance, abstain from dairy instead. Well, what about meat eaters? Well, you too could be dispensed by your bishop or your parish priest. You can ask them to dispense you from a particular Friday, and they have the authority to do that. However, they are also obliged to set you an alternative penance. You have to give up something on the Friday. Most commonly, when I'm asked to dispense someone from their obligation to fast, or more likely, when I'm asked to absolve them in confession for having eaten meat on Fridays, either because they forgot or because they just did it anyway, the penance that I set people is to make a donation to the poor box equivalent to the amount that they spent on the meat. Perhaps another priest might allow them to abstain from meat on a different day. The important thing here is that it's a rule of the Church, and it's the Church, and not your own initiative, that dispenses you from it. So, ask your parish priest for a dispensation and an alternative penance, and you'll be golden. This has been an episode of Ask a Priest. If you have any questions you want to ask, drop it in the comments section below, or post them on the Ask a Priest subreddit and hope that I see them there. Goodbye, and God bless.
Catholics can be a peculiar bunch. No birth control, no meat on Friday.
Oh, meat? What do they eat? Light bulbs?
Let's just change the subject. Bart, would you like to say grace?
Yes'm. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.